The day sign of the dog, the Mayan day sign of dog. In the Yucatan language, it's called Ak with OC. This is a very special day sign signature of energy. It's a very sweet one once we get to learn about it. The day sign of Ak. I like to talk about these day signs using the symbolism that the Mayans ascribed to them. So, for this signature of energy, we're going to look at dogs in nature, pet dogs, and their qualities and attributes. And we're going to tie everything together into the living symbol of dogs and how we see them and experience them and how they are. So, people born on the day of dog, warm hearted and playful, they tend to come across that way. They have a good understanding of human nature, very emotional, and they also have an ability to somewhat see parts of themselves in other people, or almost be able to perceive the reality or experience from the perspective of the other. There's a word people like to use, empathic. There can be or is an empathic quality with dog energy. I said they're very emotional. They have a very strong, or they're very sensitive to the emotional body. You could say that their energies are very vibrant in the emotional body. So, by that nature, they're very, very sensitive people and very emotional. Um, One particular emotion that we can sort of settle on, if we may call it an emotion, is love. Um, at the very least, a strong sentiment of love. These people are, by some consequence of that, loyal. Loyalty means a lot to them. Fairness means a lot to them. Or means a lot to you. I should rather be speaking to you. Justice, also very important to you. If this is your day sign, or even if it's anywhere else in your chart, it will hold uh, a relevancy within that area, within the tree of life chart that I'm referring to here. But dog energy is a sense of intolerance to injustice. Or unfairness. There's also one may tilt to projects within the realms of social injustice as well. You can think about the playfulness of a dog when I say that they're warm-hearted and great to be around and understand human nature and have a way of navigating the rocks of society, so to speak, because they have a knack with human nature and they can also maintain a positive, playful attitude. In fact, they're very playful people. If you have dog energy in your chart, you are somewhat a playful person. Also sensual too, but we'll get to the sensual part later. Can you imagine the way that dogs naturally are, very playful, how they be chasing their own tails and all of that playful nature with the dog. And the other side of how they can get really serious and they can bark and they can be very protective. You know, they're very loyal too. They call him man's best friend. You can tie uh, all the previous things I've mentioned into those attributes of the dog. This energy is like that. That's why it's called dog or auk. But in Mayan culture, the word auk, which symbolizes or gets translated to dog, is not limited just to a dog, but the entire dog species, including coyotes. If they were hyenas in the land of the Mayans, then hyenas would be included in that. Wolves. The Mayas even include raccoons in this family too. This family of furry, four-legged creatures. Not including cats though. Not including cats. Um, what else do I have for you? There's also sensitivity to what they call companions of destiny when it comes to dog energy. You can imagine two dogs that meet. They sniff each other out first. They sniff each other out to get a get a feel for who the other is, and they also make great companions too. There's a sensitivity to meeting people in life that I think the phrase summarizes it best: companions of destiny. That it feels like it's a destined to be sort of thing to meet certain people and live part of the life journey or the whole life journey with them as a companion, as someone that assists your growth. These things mean a lot to um, dog people. I would say social. There's a social aspect to dog that is very important for you. Dogs are quite social, but we'll get into that later as well in a much more deeper and eloquently said way. Dogs, people with the dog energy are also very sensual too. The sensual nature is important. Um, they say that you're very in touch with the bodily senses. The senses are, you're well in tune with the senses, that's one thing. Especially the sense of smell, as far as the five senses go. You may catch yourself smelling your food or a few things here and there, or caring about the health of the nose in one way or another. Also, as when it comes to sexuality as well, there's a very strong sense of sexuality that is present in you, in the dog energy or with the dog energy. Again, unfortunately, you can tie this back to the symbolism of the dog, and I say unfortunately because it's one of those sort of negative stereotypes of how we throw the word dog around, right? Because dogs are, especially stray dogs or wild dogs, are known to be very libidinous, if that's the right word. You know, having multiple romantic or sexual partners, that sort of thing, that sort of game. Having people you've been intimate with in all sorts of zip codes or areas of the town or city. The nature of the dog can sometimes lean towards things like that. One level of sensuality and touch is very important, especially if um, there are certain gaps within one's heart that one wants to fill up if they did not get the touch or the care they needed when they were young. Also, could just be uh, a type of expression of that energy, especially when it goes into a more compulsive state versus a more conscious state where you're very more here and now and conscious of the action and then considering the outcomes of it. But not too much needs to be said about that. The best way I can describe these things is to simply say or give the base qualities, and you will know how these connect with you. So it's best to leave some of the secondary, second person, third person interpretations out of the equation. Within yourself, within your experience with this energy, because you've grown up with it, you know how it ties in well for you. One other thing, or a few other things I'd like to express about that sense of justice and fairness and loyalty, because I just brushed over those things briefly. This also comes from uh, the sense of things having to be right and needing to be right or in harmony, which comes from that emotional body as well, and the sensitivity to negative forces in the environment. You can also think of dogs as tying this back to how dogs are very, very good with their noses, with smelling things out, sniffing things out, finding their way home by smelling the tracks. You may have, actually, you do have a strong ability for detective work or tracing every action back to its root cause. So yeah, a natural born detective is here with the dog energy. And you may have noticed this yourself within your own life, how you're able to retrace uh, things back to the source, how you're able to sort of rewind the script of things or dive very deeply into things and find the truth of something. It's also this sense of, it's a loyalty to the truth. It's a loyalty to what really is. In a sense, the truth is the authority because dog energy that you have makes you sensitive to authority and what it is. You can also tie in the qualities of justice, law, and order as well here, and where they ultimately come from. There's this energetic loyalty to truth, and truth being the authority. And sometimes that gets sort of warped by the institutions within society that are erected for, in the name of truth, in the name of law and order, in the name of justice, which may or may not deliver on that promise, and sometimes they may be corrupt themselves. It can be very sensitive to those things, to that hypocrisy. It can be very sensitive to that. But I was just explaining how the detective kind of quality is another expression of loyalty to truth, loyalty to harmony, loyalty to what is, and the sense of fairness or the sensitivity to fairness and justice and to what is right within family, within society. Also, it's part of that. It's part of that sensitivity or respect to truth and harmony. Especially, I like the word harmony here. This is a certain divine order that we are talking about or referring to. A certain divine order that comes from the source, the source consciousness that the Mayans called Hunab Ku. the source consciousness of existence in this world. That is what the dog is ultimately sniffing out and has a knack for. This is also, it correlates to the emotional body. It correlates to love and the connection to the heart. It correlates to a state of being that allows for playfulness. And when you are in harmony, when there is balance, when the human system is in a certain state of balance and vibrancy as well, because you're lit up from inside, that playfulness is there. As I said earlier, dog folks love to play. Love to play. And they love to get into their sensual side as well. Dog, with the dog energy, there's also, you're a good traveling companion too, or you may like to travel. You can think about how, people love to take their pet dogs out for walks, and how walking a pet dog, that's a good companion. It's not the same as a pet cat. You can't really, you can't really walk a cat outdoors per se, but dogs, that's what dogs are for. Cats are for just want to be taken care of, and they stare at you when they see you acting a fool, or they come around when they want a nice rub. Dogs, you can have a good time walking out with them. So you are a good traveling mate, a good traveling companion. You know how to have a good time and how to have a good time with people as well. There's a very sweet emotive or emotional side here. This sweet, being able to enjoy oneself, being able to enjoy the people, and a sense of social unity or social harmony with the dog energy when expressed in uh, positive ways as well. Positive ways. Those things happen. When expressed in a negative way, when it's expressed through the ego, oftentimes you can say also due to traumas, unhealed traumas, and um, unhealed traumas and ego, it can be expressed by someone who's very corrupt, someone who may take the law into their own hands more times than necessary. They can wind up in, prison, jail. Again, it's the other side of that sensitivity to justice and fairness. If one acts out compulsively or impulsively, without enough discernment, then it can lead to such situations. The Mayas do say that there is a certain ounce of good luck with dog energy and people with this energy, so they can eventually crawl out of entanglements that they may get themselves into sometimes with the law. Hopefully, though, these entanglements do not go too far. And you land in a situation where it's very difficult to crawl out. I feel I need to move on to other aspects of the dog energy. When speaking about the emotional, the strong, this is actually one of the most emotional signs, too. And there is a connection to the inner child. Within the sequence of the Mayan calendar, Calendario de Mayas, as I like to say, the day sign that follows after the sign of dog is a monkey, or in the Yucatan language, you say chuen. Monkey is also called the divine child. So, dog people have with their strong sense of emotionality, um, by association, a strong connection to the inner child, or the presence of the inner child is very much accessible, especially if they tune into their emotional body. The day sign within the Mayan calendar sequence before dog is the sign called water. And one of the aspects of water is to bring things to equilibrium. You know, water always finds its own level. And to also burn away karmas. The burning away of karmas within family and society. The wrongdoings to equalize wrongs and burn that away. So, with that, you can also see a connection to the sentiment for what is fair and what is just and making things right. With the emotional body, also, there is a tendency to sometimes get caught up in drama, unnecessary drama, or unnecessary emotional turmoil because one is so sensitive to those things. It can even happen from a young age with a deep need for love and to be touched by the mother, a deep need for people who have some authoritative role around or over you to do the right thing and to walk in that role properly with integrity and to not violate that position that they have with you. Um, you might have a sense of where this is going. Dog sign people can sometimes have issues with authority or issues with relating to the father figure. If the father figure was absent or if the father figure abused his authority, you know, those issues can be there because there's a sensitivity, like I mentioned before, to examples of authority in life. Because those are just examples, but they do matter and they do have consequences. And the right thing should be done. The right thing should happen. The right thing should happen. And people should act in a way that is in tune with harmony. If one moves from the source, moves from their heart space, moves from the truth that is impulsing their existence, then the result would be actions that are in line with truth, actions that maintain, preserve, and grow that harmony that pours out of Funabku, the source consciousness of creation. So, with this emotional body from a young age, there is a sensitivity to these things, to love, emotional care, and authority. And sometimes they're not met. We don't always get the most perfect parents, and it can lead to deep wounds. And this is not just something that can happen in childhood. Even as people with dog energy grow and develop, you may feel a desire to express your loving heart more more intensely, more openly, and you may feel a friction with other people in society or the rest of the world that may not be as emotive as you are, that may not respond to, let's say, your generosity in the way that you expect. They may not respond to, because they don't necessarily come from the same sensitivity of the emotional body as you. So one might take that personally. It's possible to take it personally and want to close yourself off. The message here is to not do that. Is to remain as yourself. The reason why I do these readings and explore the wisdom of the Maya, the Mayan calendar, and share with people is so that they can recognize these things and they can recognize their own internal elements and embrace them wholeheartedly, and to not doubt them, and to not think that they are a mistake because they may not fit in with how other people are, and they might feel jealous of things that they may have been conditioned to admire within others, to allow people to identify their uniqueness and embrace it. So, with this strong emotional body, do not fear to allow it to thrive in the way that it wants to. I'm not saying that you just. Let me actually not say that. What I mean to say is to tune into your own heart, tune into the source of this energetic imprint or quality that you carry within your spirit. The emotional, this sense of emotional and energetic intensity that you have is also a doorway. It's a means of access. This is where your consciousness is more concentrated in, and it's where you will learn to connect back to the source of your being. But the source of your being will always, from the heart space, from the space of the soul, will always impulse you in the way to act, the way to be. There isn't necessarily an intellectual way to know how much of your heart to give to who or when or how necessarily. The ego is one that might try to exert control, like give you a cheat sheet, so to speak, and into a very logically, elaborate cheat sheet, or a TED talk, sometimes. Or what I'm trying to say here is to tune into the essence within your inner essence, that which used to guide you when you were a child. Because as a child, you were guided. The ego was not really developed. It was more the essence guiding you. So you follow that. And as we grow up, we, because society slaps an ego on us, that becomes the new guiding system. And the ego does not know how to guide this divine energy that we are and we carry. And so, in many such cases, it leads us into situations of entanglement and confusion, and we lose that position of authenticity that we used to have as children, where we moved through the world as we truly were. So, with the dog sign being the energy, tune into the source of it. Quiet yourself down. And this should be, this can be easy. This can be very easy. Feel the one within you, the source of your being that gets referred to as the soul. Tune deeply into it. And allow the expression that you are, the expression of your life. Allow your actions and thoughts to move from that place, to be impulsed from that place. And because your emotional body is sensitive, or your consciousness is very much within the emotional body, you may feel it as an emotional impulse, or you might feel it as a material impulse in your body, a subtle, soft, gentle, material, or emotional impulse that is guiding you into certain actions. Whenever you want to perform an action, just tune into this heart space, this soul space, if I can use that word, and see how it impulses your system. There's a woman named Maharishika who speaks very clearly and well about this spiritual practice. Mayan calendar is all about consciousness and where your consciousness is based in within the human system, within the very framework. And understanding the day sign, the significant role that consciousness plays is to have it from wherever it is to turn inwards towards the center. Some people's consciousness is more based in mental, within the mental structures of the mind. Some people it's within their body more. Some people it's already within the heart space. Some people it's they're very strong socially within the family network. It means so much to them. There's different orientations of that consciousness can take, so to speak, different expressions rather. It flowers very differently, right? But there's always that underline, that you can say pillar of truth. There's always that source of the being. And from wherever one is, one has to turn back into that. For example, I'll give you someone who was an earth sign, they're very mental. They may tend to get lost quite a bit in memories of the past or imaginations of the future. They're busy in their minds. They can be very what's that word when people have sentimental memories or thoughts? Reminiscive. They can get lost in their minds and mental fantasies, whatnot. For them, the practice of attention would be to understand the source of their thoughts that are arising. Where is it really coming from? Is it coming from a deep pain? Is it coming from heart space or the ego? Is it coming from the source of their being, or is it coming from the desires that family and society slapped onto them to condition them to fulfill, that are not true desires that come from the source of their being? And you having the dog energy, you would look at the emotional status of your being and see whether these feelings or this, how the love is directed within your life, how it's expressed or how you like to receive it. Is it coming from conditioning, or is it coming from the source of your being? Any attribute or quality that you have, that you are expressing within yourself, the ways that it is being expressed, is it being expressed according to the true nature of your being, or according to the ego, the conditioning, society, all that nonsense that was slapped on top of you? Is it coming from a foreign desire, or is it coming from the source of your being? That is what you have to discern. That is what you have to discern. So that the qualities and energies that you are can blossom and be expressed in their most beautiful, harmonious way. So there is definitely an act of surrender that has to happen. This is actually for everyone. And you know how dogs can be really good detectives. They can sniff their way back home, so won't be too difficult, I hope. Won't be too difficult. Because we can say so many things about the beautiful aspects of dog energy or the shadow qualities, but really it's a lot of it comes down to the discernment of where is this act or thought coming from. Dog energy can be also very emotionally contemplative, and that's good. You can contemplate your own emotional condition and status, and also those of others. You can also help guide other people through emotional issues as well, and help them understand other people's points of view. Dog energy has a sense of, like I said earlier, being able to see a part of yourself in others. In a sense, you can be a guide dog, especially with that sensibility to authority, to law, to what is right and the truth, and social justice. One thing I'd like to remind you is to not have shame. Shame and guilt is also one thing I'm trying to get rid of, or that we all need to get rid of, and that I hope these readings and this exploration of the Mayan day signs and the Mayan calendar can also deliver, is to eradicate that shame of who we are and how we are. So, accept one's own nature. Accept it. It's divine. It comes from the all pervading consciousness. It comes from, you can even call it the seasons of consciousness, because this is how the calendar works. This is within the cycle called the Tzolkin. Many different 13-day seasons of different expressions of consciousness happen, and one can feel it. One very last thing I would say about dog energy. I mentioned justice, authority. I've mentioned, um, yeah, there's a certain word called discipline, which can also fit into that word cloud. The Mayas say that it's possible that you may not be very good with money. uh, it's and you may want to also be careful with how you approach money or spend it. This is like a footnote, something to add in the end to be mindful of how one uses money. Um, we can also, in a way, say how one utilizes their energies, and to not be unwise, to not be unwise. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to make it any more. I don't want to overly sophisticate the readings. I find simple to be best, and I find that helping one identify their qualities, identify how the dog energy is within them, and if it's your day sign, to know how to bring about a sense of discernment, because one thing that prompts people to get readings is they're looking for guidance, and the best guidance can be found also within. So to be able to discern one's inner master, to be able to discern the impulse of the soul as it expresses itself within the system, and also as it expresses itself within the expression of the energy that you are and that you carry. Dog being it. Hope this reading is helpful. Hope this brought clarity. And may you walk with understanding and acceptance of yourself. And may you live according to the truth of your being.